Welcome, Chem 151 students. My name is Jonathan Tullis, and I'm a professor in educational psychology here at the U of A. I'm an expert in the effectiveness of study strategies for learning and improving grades. So today we're going to talk about 4 effective study strategies that will improve grades and your learning. So let's get started with our first one. First study strategy is distributing practice. Distributing practice just means spacing out practice across multiple days and times rather than condensing it together or massing it all in the same day. So here's a visual representation of what we mean. We have Leslie, Marco, and Anne, 3 different students that are all spending 4 hours studying for their Chem 151 test. Leslie spends half an hour at a time and spreads it across multiple days and times. Marco does 1 hour at a time, and Anne does 4 hours right before the test, right? Cramming the night before. What we typically see in our data is that Leslie is likely to earn an A, while Anne is likely to earn a C. More broadly, how we schedule our study time matters. It's not just how much total study time we put in, but really how we are scheduling it that's going to affect how well we learn. Here's an example of that. We've got 116 University of South Florida students that are learning permutations or this math operation. We've got a group that has their practice spaced out into 2 different days. They do the first 5 problems in session 1. They wait a week and do the next 5 problems. And then they've got the test either 1 or 4 weeks later. We've got a group that is massing or cramming it all together in the same day before they take their test. And what we find is that our spacers, or people that spread their study across 2 days, remember much more, 64%, compared to the masters that do it all at once. In other words, we're doubling how much we remember. We've got another example here with undergrads studying meteorology. They're studying things like what's a supercell and what is air pressure and when does lightning strike. We've got a group that spaced their practice across 8 days. So practice A, wait 8 days, and then practice B, versus a group that does them back to back. And then we have our test 35 days later. What we find is the group that's spaced out their practice more remembers more than those that do it back to back. Again, cramming doesn't work. We got to distribute or space our practice out. So let me tell you about one more really cool study that shows the benefits of distributing practice across multiple days and sessions. This one's with first and second graders. They were learning about the food chain. So we've got a picture here of a very specific little food chain that ends with an owl eating a snake. Now, each of these groups of students had 4 different lessons about this food chain. The math group had all those lessons on the same day. So they did one lesson and then the other lesson and another and then another. The second group had 2 lessons on Monday and 2 lessons on Tuesday. And the third group, the space group, had 1 lesson Monday, 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, 1 on Thursday. So every group got the same lessons. They spent the same total amount of time, just distributed across their week a little bit differently. So we tested then their knowledge about how well they had learned across these 3 different groups with some simple generalization questions, like what does the rat eat? And the child had to select the picture of what a rat might eat. The more complex generalization questions were things that the student didn't exactly get taught. They have to sort of apply their knowledge in new ways and figure out the relationships among these things, like what would happen when the grass gets sprayed with a poison. So let's look at the results. What we see for our simple generalization over here is that the gray and the black bars are much better than the white bars. And these bars represent an increase in the test score from pre to post-test. So the white bar indicates that the math group actually didn't gain much from pre to post test, but the gray and the black bar indicates that clumping or spacing out your lessons resulted in some significant benefits from pre to post test, that students learned and remembered this information. We can look over here at the more complex generalization as well, shows some same advantages for distributing practice over massing, right? Massing doesn't yield any improvements in learning from pre to post. Clumping across 2 days results in a better performance than massing, but spacing your study, distributing your practice across 4 days here results in much better practice or learning than massing it together. All right, great. So what does that mean? How can we use this to support our learning? How do we use distributed practice? Well, cramming is really bad, right? Waiting the last minute before the exam, the night before, it's not gonna allow us to form those long-term memories. So cramming is bad. We need to spread our study throughout the semester. And that means we probably need to schedule to study a little bit every day and stick to that schedule. Spreading out or distributing practice is really useful for creating those long-term lasting memories.